up, everybody? It's your boy Chaz Pearson, and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
Chaz, to quote Hangover, to encapsulate our comeback, we are back! We are back! We are bringing the outlet form
Hey,
back!
you.
And we're the
Hey,
three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends
two,
that anyone could have.
two. Don't bring up Hangover because you know that opening scene where he's like paging back to, I just
Don't get
we.
canceled, bro.
It's a
Yes, I do
different
know
time.
that
We
scene,
can't.
which
We
is
gotta. We
why
gotta.
I opened the way I did. Yeah. But it is good to be back, partner.
It's
Welcome
great
back
to
to
be
the
back.
outlet forum. Absolutely. I feel fresh. I feel refreshed. And I'm glad to be back on here. Let's talk some
How,
off-season hoops.
how did that break treat you? How did that break that
Oh,
week break? We
awesome.
had 4th of July, we had free agency. It was actually a week we should have been on, but we decided, hey yo, we needed one. So we're back after a couple weeks. We had some time to really digest some of the deals or lack thereof happening in the NBA. We'll talk everything from Devin Booker to Norman Powell to Bradley Beal, Luka Doncic, Chet Holmgren, SGA, Jalen Williams, DeAndre Ayton, LeBron James. We'll get into all of it. So tap in, kick up your feet, stay tuned. We're talking everything NBA and even a little bit of baseball with the Dodgers reeling over and over and over again. Perfect time to get into a little bit of baseball. But Chris, we got to start first with the local team, the LA Lakers. Do it again. Somehow they figured out a way. And you won't believe me when I say this. You really won't believe me, but I was on the way to the Dodger game in May, and I said to Aldell, a friend of the show, those of you guys that don't know, can't beat Aldell, Aldell Del Toro, a real good friend of mine, real good friend of the shows. I was on the way to the Dodger game with him, and I said, man, this isn't the name that I think the Lakers will get, but if they could get a player like DeAndre Ayton, that would be perfect. And lo and behold, the day before free agency starts up, we get the news that DeAndre Ayton is going to be bought out
Mm,
in Portland. He
yep.
gives up about $9 million, makes back about 8 million, $8.3 million from the Lakers, and he is now a Los Angeles Laker. He was introduced yesterday. He talked about how it's just like a video game with Luka Doncic and how happy he is to be in LA. Chris, what did you make of the fact that DeAndre Ayton had so many positive things to say? And what did you also make of the fact that he is on the Lakers now and the Lakers were looking for a big man? That was their biggest deal about wanting to possibly get a big center for Luka Doncic and for them to be able to move on. What did you make of that? And answer the question on the screen, man. What's the ceiling for DeAndre Ayton personally as a Laker?
So at the time, it was really him or bust. Let's just throw that out there. It was him or bust. And you kind of reminded me a little bit of the 2019 offseason. Do you remember that where the Lakers, all the names that the Lakers were linked to, right, were signing other places, including now their current head coach, JJ Redick. That summer, he signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, who are the Lakers going to sign, right? And so this happened basically to the Lakers. You know, all the names, the Nas Reeds and Brooke Lopez, who ended up with the Clippers, Clint Capella, who ended up with the Houston Rockets, Steven Adams, who ended up staying with the Houston Rockets. Then everyone's pulling all of these names out of their rear end. Oh, we're going to get Jaren Jackson. Psych. We're going to get, somebody else. Psych, psych. We're going to get Luke Cornett. Definitely a psych. So it came down to DeAndre Ayton or bust. And I'll tell you why, because Miles Turner spurned the Indiana Pacers and signed a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I know what people are thinking. Well, why are you bringing up Miles Turner? We knew he wasn't linked to the Lakers. No, that's not why I'm bringing that up. Indiana now needs to fill that starting center position. Go back 5 years ago. Who did DeAndre Ayton, as a restricted free agent, sign a 4-year offer sheet with? Anybody? Bueller? It was the Indiana Pacers. So it comes down to the Lakers and the Pacers to sign DeAndre Ayton, who got bought out and is still owed, I believe, Chaz, $34 million this year that the Portland Trailblazers are going to pay him. And so he had to decide, who am I going to sign with? Who am I the best fit with? I don't think anyone would have batted an eye if he decided to go with the Pacers. What is the downside of signing with Indiana? No Tyrese Halliburton this year. So yeah, maybe you make a little bit more money, but maybe your presence isn't as dominant because you're not playing with a very good point guard. You sign with the Lakers. Who are you playing with? Luka Doncic, who you came into the league with in 2018, Austin Reeves, a very solid pick and roll guard, and of course, as of now, we'll get into this a little later, LeBron James. Not to mention, you fill a big time hole in the middle that was glaring back in May and April in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So there are question marks. And I'm going to answer your second question. What is his ceiling? His ceiling is still high. This is still a young man. I mean, I believe he's going into year 8, right? So it makes him about 25, 26 years old.
Yeah, he's 26. He'll be 27 this year.
Okay, so he'll be 27 this year. Okay, so he's a little bit older than Luka. The issue has never been talent. The issue has been two things: consistency and actually all attack motor, attitude. And those are the two things that really stand out. We could deal with consistency. We could overcome that because there are other things he could do on the floor besides score the basketball. It is about to me rebounding, setting hard screens. So the attitude though and the motor, those are things that I hope he heard loud and clear, because that's questioning your heart and your effort. So if he could now put all that noise aside, get a clean slate here in LA, a winning environment, playing alongside superstar talent, a team with still legitimate championship aspirations, I think we are going to see closer to what we saw in 21 and 22 with DeAndre Ayton on the floor. But it's got to come from inside with him. It's easy to say the right thing at a press conference, Chaez, but we need to see it day in and day out. And it's got to go beyond the numbers. I want him to impact winning. That's what I also want to see. I want him to be – I don't want the Lakers to win in spite of him. I want the Lakers to win because I think he's got some good upside. Because also, too, Chaez, I'm going to turn it over to you. Last opportunity to really show what he can do as a starting center. Because those 2 years that he had in Portland, numbers-wise were not that good, durability was not that good, and attitude and motor were also questionable. So if you compound those issues with another lackluster season in a good environment, Lakers, your future now becomes a little cloudy, my friend. So we shall see. But I think he could be an 18-10 guy.
Yeah, I think ultimately for DeAndre Ayton, he's really just going to be everything that the Lakers need. The fact that he is talking the way that he's talking in this press conference really gives me cause to pause, because he's saying the right things, but it's all about the actions that line up. So there's a reason why he's available. But let's hear from DeAndre Ayton in this press conference since you brought it up.
For you is you narrowed your decision down and why you ended up making the move to come here?
Honestly, I'm gonna say first thanks to the Portland Trailblazers. Great organization as well, and you know, um, it wasn't tough, making this decision, but just taking my time and embracing.
Mm, a little bit of issues there, but as you can tell, he's definitely a little soft spoken when talking about himself. But what he was pretty much going to say is that he's grateful for the opportunity. He knows that this is his opportunity to be what he needs to be. He talked about how when he had playmakers around him, like Devin Booker, like Chris Paul, like LeBron James, like Luka Doncic, he's really going to be able to step into that role and play the way that he needs to play, winning basketball, not developmental basketball like he was playing in Portland. So I think for DeAndre Ayton, really the sky's the limit, because he should outplay the 2-year, $16 million deal that he got from the Lakers. After year one, he should be chomping at the bit to be able to either opt out and then renegotiate and get a bag for 20, 25, 30 mil, because that's what he was signed for under a rookie extension when he was going to Western Conference finals in Phoenix, playing with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So I really like this addition. The Lakers really got lucky. because they didn't have to overpay for somebody like Brook Lopez. I don't think, which would have been great for them, especially because he would have been a starter in LA. But in LA as a Clipper, he's coming off the bench, backing up Zubac. DeAndre Jordan wouldn't have been a great signing. Again, a backup guy who would have been forced into a center role. Jackson Hayes, who got re-signed by the Lakers, a backup guy that was in a starting role. So DeAndre Ayton is the fit specifically for the Lakers. He's even better than Mark Williams, Nick Claxton, Walker Kessler, anybody else that the Lakers were even linked to as far as a big man or a five man. DeAndre Ayton is the best available option, bar none. So anybody saying anything about, oh, well, the Lakers are going to take a step back, or the Lakers only signed Jake LaRavia, who's a great, young player in, I wouldn't say great, good player in Memphis and Sacramento, just needing the right fit. You got both players for the same slot that you would have gotten Dorian Finney-Smith on, and everybody was losing their head about, losing Dorian Finney-Smith and him opting out of his deal and, looking to get a 4-year deal in Houston instead of LA. But I'll tell you this, at 32, going on 36 years old by the end of that deal, I think the Lakers got a better deal for the same amount of value of money. And yes, you lost DFS, but I mean, was he really the needle mover, the difference maker? If that's the case, why didn't the Lakers make it out of the first round if he was that big of a difference maker, in my opinion? So I think that the Lakers did good. Now, it's all about what they do around the edges on the team. And something I want to say, Chris, really quick is, we'll get into just the method and the mode of the NBA right now, but teams are strapped. Nobody has cap space except for Brooklyn. So unless you want to go play for one of the worst teams in the league, that's who teams would possibly be signing with if they opted out of deals. So everybody opts in. Everybody's either, I wouldn't say asking for a trade, but trying to get traded, if so. And it's harder to get traded when you're a first apron or even a second apron team under this new CBA. We'll get into all of that later on, as we talked about. But ultimately, I think the Lakers have done good. And we'll get into a little bit of some of these other deals that I think are going to be impact moves moving forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, the LaRavia deal, I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card. He's shown promise about and I know Marcus, our guy Marcus Garcia Draper, who thinks I have a good broadcaster voice. I haven't forgotten that compliment, bro. Yes, the Lakers do need backup guys. And actually, Chaz, if you look at their bench, which brings me to my next point, it does lack a scoring punch. I mean, if you look at their starting lineup with Ayton, let's assume that LeBron and Hachimura are still on the team coming into training camp. It's going to be Ayton, Hachimura, LeBron, Luka, Reeves. That's going to be your starting five. Let's look at their bench right now. Vanderbilt, Hayes, Gabe Vincent, Dalton Connects, Maxey Kleber, right? And LaRavia. That's 6 guys, right? And if you want to throw in, this guy, Adu Thiero from Arkansas, the second round pick that they just traded up for at 36, it lacks a scoring punch. But worse than that, Chaz, where are your perimeter defenders at? That's the thing. You don't have very good perimeter defenders. As much as I like Jake LaRavia, or maybe even believe in his potential like you do, and he showed moments of what he could do in Sacramento. We even saw that before in Memphis, but he is still relatively unproven. Can we see what he could do in a full season? Can he maintain that level of consistency for a full season? Because I think the other thing Pelinka's banking on is, can this guy play great next to great players? That's what they're banking on, and we shall see. Can he knock down an open three? I still think there is an opportunity here for the Lakers to get better and secure some of their perimeter defensive issues in the form of a trade with the Washington Wizards. Who do you ask? Former Defensive Player of the Year award winner Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart has not played well since he left Boston 2 years ago. He was injured that most of that first year with the Memphis Grizzlies. They traded him out of there last year to Washington. Started to show himself again, but Washington was so far down the road and they were so far out of it, nobody really cared or paid attention. I think this is the perfect kind of guy you want to get. Somebody with something to prove that needs to be in a winning environment. And if you could somehow flip Gabe Vincent, maybe a Kleba, and a second-round pick, I think that's enough to land Marcus Smart out of Washington. He's a ball-handling guard. He could defend multiple positions. He could knock down an open three, and he can handle the rock, and he could play alongside good players.
Chris,
I
fuck
think
that.
this is the guy.
Wait for a buyout. This is not the guy you trade for. I'm not giving the Wizards anything for Marcus Smart. This is a buyout candidate.
I disagree.
You would give up assets for Marcus Smart, like multiple assets for Marcus Smart.
Difference.
It's still an asset, though, is what I'm saying. So pretty much you would give up 2 expiring and the 1 second-round pick that we have left, being the Lakers.
Yeah,
for Marcus Smart.
I would do that for Marcus Smart.
Look, Marcus Smart would be great, but I don't know.
You need someone that can
if
defend
he's
on
the
the
guy
perimeter.
that
I
you
hear
want
what
to
you're saying.
give up
You're
assets for when you're limited on assets. That's the only thing. Is he worth the assets? Yes, but based on what else you have in your cupboard at your disposal, it's like that's not the guy that's going to get us over the hump, really. Like, in my opinion. But if you could swing it for like a player like Andrew Wiggins, defensively, in my opinion, that's the guy that the Lakers should really target. But the word on the street is they want a Dalton Connect, they want a Rui Hachimura, and a first-round pick. It's like, bro, Pat, we love you, but damn,
No, I hear what you're saying.
Not going to fleece us like that.
No, for sure. And actually, Washington is getting value right now for some of those vets. Look what they just got for Kelly Olynyk. They got Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley, a couple of former draft picks of the San Antonio Spurs who played well for them, and a second. And for Kelly Olynyk, who's 12-year NBA vet, is a journeyman. He's not that great. I mean, he's a solid big man who could do a few different things, but they gave up young assets in order to get a veteran. So I agree. You don't want to give up assets in order to get a guy who could end up getting bought out anyway. However, I'm just saying, okay, but you can't deny the fact that a Marcus Smart is exactly what the Lakers need. Because as of right now, Chaz, especially after losing Finney-Smith, you don't have anyone, you barely have anyone who could defend at the forward position, right? And now you really don't have anyone who could defend at the guard position. Smart kind of solves some of those issues. But even if you were to land Andrew Wiggins, I'm not sure how much of those issues he solves either, because Wiggins is also a little bit older now. And I don't know if he's ever really been a true lockdown defender outside of that 2022 postseason run with the Golden State Warriors.
Got you. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm gonna leave that there. We'll come back. We'll come back to the Lakers in a little bit, but the team that made really big news today to me is Oklahoma City Thunder. They keep giving out record deal after record deal, and they're reportedly very close with J-Dub on a rookie extension as well, which might be the same as Chet Holmgren's 5-year, $250 million rookie extension. SGA signs a record $71 million a year deal for 4 years, 285 on his extension as well. Chris, the OKC Thunder.
Wow.
I mean, they are going for it in this window, but this new CBA is definitely going to screw them years and years down the road, probably in 2030, 5 years from now. But what do you make of them taking care of their own? And what do you make of them paying Chet Holmgren a year later? I'm sorry, a year early, as opposed coming off of the injury, as opposed to just waiting one more year, where you could have offered him the same exact deal next year, but you gave it to him a year early. What do you think?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Well, first of all, shout out to SGA. Not only, you want to talk about a great month for this young man. You talk about going to the finals. First of all, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, winning a championship, Finals MVP, right? What else did he do this year? Scoring champion, regular season MVP. Now he's on the cover of NBA 2K 26. Shout out to SGA. And now a new 9-figure contract, almost $300 million over 4 years. I mean, that's incredible. So shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What a month. Might be one of the best months in human history, let alone in NBA history. And Chet Holmgren, they decided, you know what? before the CBA goes up anymore, let's try to ink some of these guys now to what could look like a lot of money. But given the fact that Nikola Jokic just turned down an extension because if he re-signs next year, he could sign for, I believe it's an additional $80 million, right?
Chris.
Jokic can get on the Supermax.
Chris.
What?
Nothing.
What?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. I am foreshadowing. Let me get back. Go back. There you go. Go back. There you go.
You know what's on the rundown.
It's a precursor. I knew what I'm doing. Yes, I do know what's on the rundown, and I was setting up the next topic. Thank you, Chris. You're welcome, Chaez. But for Chet to sign this or to agree to this, knowing what's up ahead, knowing what Jokic just did, also goes to show you that Chet, I think, is also betting, not necessarily betting on himself. He is betting on security. And sometimes you see that from players as well. Well, it's like, well, why wouldn't you wait a year? Because what if I get hurt? I missed 3 months with a hip injury this year, where I barely came back in February, and I was able to help my team in their finals run, correct? So by him doing it now, what he's saying is, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of money to have the security, but also to allow the organization to also get better on the margins and add pieces as we need it. So I think that also tied into effect. And I think there is a comfortability and a security that both of these guys, and soon to be Jalen Williams, J-Dub, who's probably going to get his extension, feel being here in Oklahoma City. And they feel like we got a good thing going. Let's try to give ourselves as many cracks at this as we can over the next 4 to 5 years.
I like giving him the money early because you won the championship. I just wanted to pose the question to you because that is always a topic of discussion when you give guys deals a year early instead of, either right on time or a year late. In the NBA, it's a little bit, you either pay your guys early or right on time. In the NFL, that's where it's really, Jerry Jones, you pull that shit when you're paying your own guys late. I love it. I love the fact that SGA, Chet, J-Dub are all cashing in, especially on that ship, because Lord knows they may not win another one, given the CBA and the parity around this league. There are a lot of teams that got better. One of them that I want to get into really quick is the Clippers.
Yeah.
They trade
Good option.
Norman Powell. They got rid of Norman Powell, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? They got John Collins.
Yeah.
They got Kevin Love going to Utah, buyout candidate.
Yeah.
I love what Miami's doing by being able to upgrade their talent, even though they lost out on, other guys that they potentially tried to trade for, which is why they're trying to fleece the Lakers for Andrew Wiggins and anybody else that's trying to get him.
For
But
Miami, can I say one thing?
For Miami, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I like this move for a couple of different reasons. First of all, for Miami, Norman Powell is a stopgap kind of player. Miami knows that they're out of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. They know they weren't going to get Giannis. They know they weren't going to get another star to replace what they lost with Jimmy Butler, right? So you know what? Let's take on a contract that doesn't have many years on it. The guy can still help us win. We're going to need another scorer to go along with Tyler Hero, something that they were lacking last year. So let's do that. In the process, John Collins, which I believe is in the final year of his contract, right? Going to the Clippers. He solves the power forward issues with the Clippers because you don't want Kawhi playing the 4 spot, just like the Lakers really didn't want LeBron playing the 4 spot. So for the Clippers, he shores up the front court. So now you have an adequate, athletic, floor spacing forward to go between Zubac and Kawhi Leonard, right? And yeah, you lost Norman Powell, but it won't matter as much. The blow will be softened if they end up landing Bradley Beal on the buyout market. So I think I can understand it gives them some financial flexibility and another short-term contract and another guy that they don't have to pay longer than they have to. You're right. Norman Powell was a big part of their success last year. They are not in the playoff position that they're in without Norman Powell's contributions for the season. Him, along, of course, with James Harden and Ivica Zubac. Those guys kept that seat very warm for Kawhi Leonard to come back and make that impact. But what I want to say is everything is about flexibility moving forward. We want to be in a position to compete. Yes. We want to shore up some of our issues. Yes. but we don't want to be tied into any of these long-term deals that are going to screw us in the summers of 26, and more importantly for the Clippers, 2027. Boom.
Well, Chris just keeps foreshadowing. I think for this move, it clearly sets up because you wouldn't trade an offensive power like this without knowing something about what you're getting in return in either the buyout market, another trade, something like that. Because as of right now, the only guy that the Clippers have to handle the ball or bring it up sufficiently is James Harden. Obviously, Kawhi
Correct.
possibly can, but now that you got rid of Norman
Mhm.
Powell, all you got is James Harden. So this leads me to Bradley Beal, like you mentioned. He's reportedly
Mhm.
very close to a buyout in Phoenix in order to make the
Yep.
numbers work CBA wise and for the Suns to be able to stretch and waive him. Um, he would have to give back about 14 million of the 118 or 19, I believe, that he has left
Is
on
that what the
his.
amount was? Okay, so I thought it was 108, 109. It's actually, I'm off
Yeah,
by 10 million.
actually,
Yeah,
no. You're right. You're right. It is 108, 109 because he needs to give back 14 to get back into like the 90 to 95 million
no,
dollar
no, no.
range.
But hold
So
on. Never mind. Never mind the give back. What is he guaranteed for this season and the player option for 27? I know
I
the
believe
player option is 55. Is he making 53 this year?
it's like 109, 108.5, 109 is what it
Okay,
is.
got it. So if he
So
gives up 14 mil, that puts him at 94 million, I believe.
yeah, like 94 to 96, somewhere in that range.
Got it.
But they
I'm
really
sorry.
got
Continue.
to they got to get him down so that way they can stretch him over a period of 5 years per the CBA. So they're negotiating, they're going back and forth. We've heard about this for a little over a week now, and it's still not done.
Mhm.
So obviously, Bradley Beal trying to hold on to every single dollar that he can and get out of Phoenix, but it's really his fault because he could have gotten out of Phoenix and still gotten his money, in my opinion. But he just didn't. He didn't want to get out mid-season, which is why Kevin Durant had to go to Houston. So ultimately, for Bradley Beal, I think he's going like the odds are like minus 250, meaning you have to spend 250 just to make back 100 to bet that Bradley Beal is going to the Clippers. So he would actually fit very perfect for the Lakers. I think he'd be a good fit with the Bucks, but there's a lot of ties to the West Coast, obviously, for him. His wife being from LA as well. So
Mhm.
I think he probably wants to stay on the West Coast, which is why the Clippers make a whole lot of sense. And if I'm being very, very honest, they are going to be an absolute juggernaut in the West. I don't know why people are sleeping on the Clippers, especially if they can get a scoring punch in back Bradley Beal, because you can't really rely on Kawhi's health or anything like that. But the guys that
Yeah.
you have surrounding him in Zubac and Brook and Harden and Nick Batum and Derek Jones Jr. and Bradley Beal,
Yeah.
if you get them, you got like 8, 9 guys deep that can play real tough, good, gritty basketball for Tyronn Lue.
Yep.
So I'm actually pretty high on the Clippers, especially if they can get somebody like Bradley Beal. But just getting a guy in Brook Lopez to back up Zubac to me is major, major, major work. And part of that is because DeAndre Ayton just suddenly became available and the Lakers didn't throw a bag at a guy like Capella or Brook or anybody else like that that was available at the five for that matter.
For sure. And I don't think, what's funny is Laker fans wanted those guys, but I don't think Laker fans were really like, 2 years, 18 million for Brook. I could have dealt with that. That wouldn't have been too bad, 9 mil a year. But, the problem is with Brook is, his lateral movement has really gone down the last guy. This is a former defensive. Did Brook ever win defensive player of the year, or wasn't he a candidate for defensive player of the year? Made a couple of all defensive teams in Milwaukee, but he's kind of, check that out because I think he did. Or was a candidate or something. And Clint Capella, I've always been a fan of. I thought he would have been a good fit for the Lakers, but not at 3 years and 21 million. I was not crazy about some of those contracts. So I think with DeAndre Ayton at the end of the day, it ended up working out well. Going to the Clippers, yeah, the Clippers, what's great about Beal is his ability to score. I just think the problem was nobody wanted to pay him at that price. And the fact of the matter is he doesn't defend. He's never been a great defender. He's more of a ball dominant player. And the reason why he works better for the Clippers than maybe a team like the Lakers already have 3 ball dominant guys as it is: LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. Clippers have maybe 2 with Harden and Kawhi. So they could use that third guy who more or less is going to come up off the bench And if he agrees to do that and buys into it the way Westbrook did, the way some of these other veteran players have through the years, he's going to be fantastic. But he could also, I think, play alongside some of these guys as well. Maybe not consistently, but in small stretches, playing next to Harden and Kawhi, I think he could be better at that. And I think that's hopefully something, like you said, that Ty Lue could get him to buy into, between coming up off the bench, comfortable, spotting up instead of creating your own shot. You're going to have those moments, but you have to be comfortable not having as many of those moments. And I hope Beal psychologically is ready to accept that role. And they may not be done there. Chris Paul is also being linked to the Clippers because he wants to be closer to his family. He's got ties to James Harden. He's got ties to the Clipper organization and Steve Ballmer and whatnot. So they could end up adding 2 veteran guys on buyouts who are, trying to, in Beal's case, trying to play for the next contract, but in Chris Paul's case, playing closer to his family, but also trying to close out his career on a high note. He even just said on Jamel Hill's show, this may be it for him. So they could end up with 2. Yeah.
That is what he said. Breaking news: Chris Paul is about to retire. It was kind of like that news when Chris Paul made that 3, and it like put them down from 35 to 32 in that blowout loss that they had in Phoenix in Game 7. Brooke Lopez, by the way, has never won the Defensive Player. He was only as closest he got was a runner-up in 22 and 23, and yeah, he was a finalist one time, and which was that same year. Really quick as well.
Got it.
Chris Paul would actually fit better with the Lakers because they need a backup ball handler other than Jordan Goodwin. So that's who
And
I
Gabe
think
Vincent.
and Gabe Vincent, but that's who I think would work well. Also, another leader outside of LeBron to help with, little things, veteran stuff, kind of like that Rondo role, but just not as good for the Lakers, especially in his last year. I think he would actually work a lot better with the Lakers than the Clippers, but that's just me personally. Getting over to his former team in the Phoenix Suns, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the record-setting deal. SGA broke it last weekend with his deal, and Devin Booker waited 6 days to break his because he signed a 2-year, $145 million extension with the Suns. That's $72.5 million in the last 2 years of his deal. He signed with Phoenix for the next 5 years through the year 29, 2030 season, which is 5 years away, which is pretty crazy. Well, yeah, 5 years away, which is pretty crazy. Man, I love the fact that Matt Ishbia is doing right by his star guy and is giving him this record deal because he's worth it. Devin Booker hasn't had the greatest seasons with Kevin Durant or with Monty Williams coming in and coming Frank Vogel, Michael, Budenholzer. It's just been a lot going up and down in Phoenix ever since they lost that Game 7 to me, or Game 6, I should say, to Milwaukee. Chris, what do you make of the fact that Booker still got this deal? Does this mean that he's going to retire as a Sun, in your opinion? And are the Suns just getting flat better now that they've traded Kevin Durant, got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Devin Booker signs for the next 5 years, Bradley Beal probably coming off the books in terms of major cap space. You got 2 big guys in the draft. The big guy from Duke, I forgot what his name, Malua, as well as who was the other big guy that they got?
Well, they traded for Mark Williams too. They
traded for Mark Williams too.
Yeah,
maybe their medical staff isn't as good as the Lakers because they still made that trade either way. But what do you have, man?
Yeah, so Phoenix is kind of interesting. First of all, shout out to Book. I mean, that's an incredible extension right there. I mean, the amount of money that some of these guys are getting, and Devin Booker's been a great player in this league for a long time. I think at times, could he be a little bit more durable? Yes, but he plays hard defensively. He's a capable playmaker. He's certainly a capable shot maker. We saw this guy drop 70 in a game one time. So clearly Phoenix is saying that, yes, even with all the turmoil going on, the Durant stuff that didn't go down, we've had new ownership, we've had a coaching carousel. We still believe that you are our guy, and we're going to try to do right by you And with Marcus Garcia Draper saying, I feel like Phoenix is a right before retirement deal. I don't know who that's in reference to, but in Booker's case, it definitely could be. You're talking about a 2-year, 145, dude. That was what, 72.5 mil per season, 72 million in a season. That is crazy. But Matt Ishbia clearly believes this guy is the cornerstone of this franchise. Now, question is it going to lead to a lot of success? I think they're a good team. They hired a young coach who is at Jordan Ott, right? That's who they hired as their next head coach,
Jordan Ott.
rookie head coach. So we'll see what they look like. But, they're in a weird position. I think they'll be competitive. I don't think they'll be great. I think they'll be one of those teams that you don't look forward to facing because they have the capability of beating you. They have the size. They have scoring on the perimeter. They've got a lot of youth. They've got speed and stuff like that. So we're going to see. But I also don't know what else they're going to do with some of their veteran role players, the Grayson Allens, the Royce O'Neals. I wonder what's next for those guys. Dylan Brooks, is he going to finish the year in Phoenix? I think Green, they're going to keep around and continue to develop and see if maybe he could play alongside Booker. But if not, they could end up moving him because he's still young and still has some upside in his game despite a really poor showing in the playoffs last year. But yeah, I definitely think their roster construction makes a little bit more sense. I just don't know if it's going to lead to a lot of success in a competitive conference. But Book is clearly going to be the center, literally the son of the Suns. You see what I did there?
Good one. Ow. Let's get to one more basketball topic that you already foreshadowed before we get into a little bit of baseball before we close out real quick, Dow. Nikola Jokic has yet to sign an extension. I put it up here because he can sign for $80 million more, and that's in one season, by the way. Like he can sign for like 3 years, $240 million, or somewhere close to that. If he waits next year, as opposed to signing the extension this year, where he would get 2 years of extra money instead of 3 years of extra money next year. So, Chris, is there more to this that he didn't sign? Is it just money, or is he keeping his options open because Josh Kroenke opened up his mouth and said something stupid earlier last month about possibly trading him if the CBA constricts him later on down the road? Or does this have much to do with nothing and he just wants a little bit more icing on the cake when he does sign? Well,
first of all, before we get into that, we have a question from in my comment section. I want to turn over to you as soon as we're done with this topic. So I'm going to have Chaez answer that question that you just asked. It's about the Lakers and it's about Bron. Just, full disclosure. Yeah, I think going back to your question, it's a combination of both. I think it is fine. You'd be silly to think, why would I sign an extension when I can make 80 million more next year? Jokic understands that. He's playing the game and whatnot. But I think some of it also, I'd be remiss to not think that, Jokic heard those comments from Josh Kroenke, not knowing what the situation is. So why am I gonna sign an extension with a franchise that may not be committed to me in my best interest? You know what I'm saying? Even though Jokic has put the Denver Nuggets on the map, he is a former 3-time regular season MVP, 1-time Finals MVP, the only championship that the organization has ever won. He's been a big, he won it for them, along with, of course, Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and, Porter Jr. and the great coaching of Michael Malone. So he is, I think, doing both and wants to know that is this franchise on the up and up. They fired the only head coach he ever knew midseason last year. There has been some questionable moves that haven't made a ton of sense. There was dysfunction between the head coach, the now former head coach, and the now former executive, and Calvin Booth and Michael Malone. They're both gone. So yeah, he doesn't know how this organization and the direction that it's going to moving forward.
Good
Absolutely,
point.
You should keep your options open. Not to mention, you make a comment like that, dude. Why am I going to commit to you when you sound like you're on the freaking fence? And Josh should know better because he's been with this organization for a long time. He's had to watch his father be, a champion on multiple levels with all these different franchises. And you're not going to commit to me or make me feel that important in a pro player league. Of course I keep my options open. That being said, I do like what Denver did. Like what Denver did this offseason. Tim Hardaway Jr., was a good pickup. Jonas Valanciunas looks like they got that situation cleared up where they're going to
Bruce
guarantee
Brown.
both years, this year and next year. Bruce Brown, they bring him back. I think they drafted some guys. They still got some good young players there that are continuing to develop. The Christian Browns, Julian Strother, and some of the other young guys that they have on that squad. But their roster makes more. But I'm just saying, like, those guys took a little bit of a step forward, and hopefully that continues. And I also like the Cam Johnson trade too. Porter, I don't think he's on its surface, it doesn't look like a major upgrade.
No,
it's not a major upgrade. He's a shooter who can also defend. That's the other thing. And I think with her, he was just very one-dimensional. But I think with Cam, you can get someone who can not only shoot, he can make plays, he could rebound. He knows how to play alongside other great players. So I think he's going to sort it out. Hopefully, David Adelman continues what he started late last year and into the playoffs. Remember, Chaez, they were one win away from the Western Conference Finals and getting past Oklahoma City. So they're going to see what they can do next year. But I think some of it is financial, but some of it is also seeing if the direction of the organization fits what Jokic wants to do and the commitment that they have to one another. Your thoughts?
All right. Look, I think that he's smart to leave the door open for other options and for more money, but he can only get the amount of money that we're talking about here if he stays in Denver. That is the team that has his bird rights, not any other team. So that's what it comes down to. I think it has everything to do with money, but if for whatever reason Denver isn't able to do what they need to do, I don't see Jokic going anywhere, to be honest with you. I don't even see Jokic playing until like 35. Jokic to me is going to be one of those guys that calls it early, that wins as much as he can. Yeah. He's going to fall off of a cliff because he's not athletically inclined. So once he's out of his prime, he's going to look god awful, right? Like at least Shaq was athletic. Jokic is not. So when Shaq is at the end of his career, he's going to look like Shaq before he even gets as old as Shaq, in my opinion.
I disagree. But okay, because Jokic's body type is different. But go ahead.
That's just my personal opinion. I don't think he's going to be one of these guys that's going to play, for a long period of time, an extended period of time, in my opinion. But I see him staying in Denver. It has much to do about nothing, in my opinion. I want to open up the door and flip the coin on its head because there's a very important extension coming up on August 2nd for somebody who plays for the home team. Same exact situation, Chris. Can sign a short term, a long term, or sign nothing at all. And that's Luka Doncic for the Lakers. August 2nd, he's extension eligible. The Lakers have gotten DeAndre Ayton. LeBron opts in. The Lakers haven't done barely anything else, obviously. Do you think Luka signs an extension with the Lakers? If so, is it a short term? Is it the full 4-year, 229? Does he sign nothing at all? What do you say?
I believe he will sign a short term because this cap continues to go up. I think he will give himself that financial security, but also keeping his eye on the Lakers and what they're doing. But I also believe that he believes in Mark Walter. And from that aspect, I wouldn't rule out the 4-year extension. I wouldn't necessarily rule out doing nothing at all and playing it out. But I think just for his own security, I could see him signing something similar, not exactly the same, but similar to what Devin Booker just signed with the Phoenix Suns, a 2-year, very lucrative extension. By the way, Jimmy Butler just did that as well with the Golden State Warriors after they traded for him from the Miami Heat. So
I want to cut you
those are becoming a little bit more common. So I could see that.
Really quick on the 2-year thing. The only difference is that Jimmy's old as hell, and he's trying to. He can't sign for more than a certain amount of time because of his age. And Booker only signed for 2 more because he already has 3 left on his deal. So if he could have gotten more, he would have. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm not saying that Luke is not going to sign. I'm just saying
if he does,
it has a lot more to do. I think it would be smart if he did a 2-year deal. Here's why. It's an ode to the Lakers to say, let's do business. I'm open for business. I'm not going anywhere. But I am going to shine short term instead of long term. Also, because I can opt out and re-up for even more money as I get further along in my tenure in the league. You can sign for more money when you're at 9 years or 10 years as opposed to 7 years
Yeah.
or 8 years. So for money reasons and business reasons, but also as just like an ode, a good faith gesture to say, hey, I'm here to find out what you guys are going to do. I want to be in business with Mark Walter. Jeannie Buss reportedly is going to be the governor for the Lakers for the next 5 seasons. Everybody is all up in arms about that. I don't know why, because
Mhm.
she's been the governor. She's going to be the governor. And Mark Walter has been a partial owner and is going to remain a full owner moving forward as well. So nothing's going to change, in my opinion, in the near foreseeable future. So does Luca sign an extension? Yes. Does it come on August 2nd? Probably not, because of Euro basketball and Luca wanting to play for his home country and qualify for the Olympics and so on.
Yeah.
That's part of why his extension is up August 2nd instead of July 2nd, like most everybody else, because he pushed it back when he was in Dallas to play a little bit longer for Team Slovenia. And assistant coach for the Lakers is over working in Slovenia with Luka Doncic as well. So I think this all lines up for him to sign a 2-year deal. Would I be shocked if he signed a 4-year? Yeah, I would. And I'll tell you this as well.
Hmm.
AD, when it was reported that he was going to sign an extension with the Lakers, I thought it might be a 2-year deal too. We woke up, AD signed for the full 5 years. It was like what, 200 and like 25 million or 250.
I think
Like it was something.
yeah.
Some
Yeah.
actually,
I think it
like
was
two, like 262 or something like that. Actually,
I don't
like
know if it was that much. I don't know if it was that much. You're talking about when he signed in the fall, I should say, of 2020 after the championship
right,
year.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it was that much. I think it was still under 200. I think it was like 195 or something like that. That was the full max at the time. So I don't think it was 262, because these super maxes now just got to like 280. So
So
it was
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
you're right. It was a 5-year 190
190.
in
Yeah, I knew I
December of
was.
2020, and then he signed a 3-year 186 in August of 23, which is why at the time it was a record, making 62 a year. Now Devin Booker and uh, SGA have surpassed that as well.
Well, let me present the question that was presented to me on my chat. Okay, LeBron be traded, says Johnny of Purple Sugar.
Yes, but it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
Any
would.
team that he would want to go, any team that he would want to go to would be strapped, because he would probably want to go to a contender. Most contenders are either first apron or second apron teams now. As a result, they can't aggregate salaries, meaning, throw a bunch of teams up in the deal or players up in the deal to match his salary. You'd have to, the only guy that would actually make sense just on its face, and it would still be difficult, would be somebody like Jimmy Butler, who makes more than LeBron technically, or somebody like even Kevin Durant, but he just got traded, so I don't believe he can be traded again. So
Question.
it would just be very difficult for LeBron to get traded. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about this. Could the Spurs pull it off if they wanted to? Because they have Vassell, they have Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, those contracts, right? They can't trade Cornette. You have Kelly Olynyk's expiring contract, but I don't know how that works unless they made that a 3-team deal. I just don't
The,
know if
the,
San Antonio has enough salary in order to make
the
that
way
work.
think
Yeah.
about it this way: because of LeBron's no trade clause, and it is virtually the last no trade clause in the NBA once Bradley Beal gets bought out here in the few days, weeks, or whatever you may have it. Think of trading LeBron as a 3-team deal already,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
I agree.
whoever he gets traded to, they would have to agree to it. The other team, the Lakers, would have to agree to it as well, and LeBron would have to agree to it as well. Meaning
Right.
he can decide who stays on the team that he wants to go to, who leaves the team, where he wants to go, all that stuff. And ultimately, the Lakers are in the business of LeBron So they'll do whatever it takes to keep him, which is why they got a player like DeAndre Ayton, and which is why they're going to offer Luca the max and hopefully that he signs and do everything that they can. But again, LeBron is not the priority. Luca is. And LeBron knows that,
Exactly.
which is why he put out that statement through Rich Paul, which
Yeah.
actually made more waves than he probably intended to, trying to put pressure on the Lakers because
Yeah.
he has
He
no
was trying to
leverage.
reestablish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
because
if
he
you look
because he opted in.
for the last 4 or 5 years, what has he had going for him? Going back to his last couple years in Cleveland, leverage. LeBron James prides himself on leverage. He opted in, which was a little bizarre from the he's opting in. We haven't seen this before. So he
It
either
wasn't
opts
bizarre though,
in,
Chris.
not
It wasn't bizarre.
wanting to
Nobody
get
had
more
cap
years.
space.
It was bizarre given right, but it was bizarre given his past history. That's what I meant by bizarre. Given the fact that he has consistently
Right.
opted out and renegotiated another 1+1, given his time at the end of Cleveland, the Cleveland tenure, and the last 3-4 years of his Laker tenure. It's consistently been 1+1s. So the fact that he opted in, it kind of led some people thinking, what is he doing? Is an extension coming? Which didn't come. Does he not want to take a pay cut? Because there was that narrative that was being thrown out there, you know what I mean, in order to add around this team. So it really put not only the Lakers in a bind, put him in a bind, because now your options are limited. They're not going to buy you out. You're not going to leave 14, 15 million on the table like Bradley Beal is going to have to. He's not going to want to do that. So he had to put out a statement to try to reestablish some leverage. And I think he's also feeling the 2 mega moves that the Lakers have made over the last 5 months have been what, Chaez? The Luka Doncic trade and the Lakers selling to another owner, where his partnership was with who? It was with Anthony Davis as his running mate, and it was with Jeannie Buss, the owner, and Pelinka as well. So now that he sees that these two things have changed, puts him in a position of, where do I fit into this scenario? I agree with you. I think more than likely he's going to start the season and finish the season with the Lakers. If things are going south, if he's genuinely unhappy, we could see trade talks maybe at the deadline. But I think for right now, what he needs to do is re-engage with this team, because this is what it is. You have 2 max players on this deal on this team. You have you've got a few expiring contracts. You have a player like Austin Reeves who's going to get paid next year, either by the Lakers or somebody else. So we're limited with what we can do. This is what it is at this point. Take it or leave it. We're going to try to get better on the edges, and that's all we could hope for. The Lakers, I still believe, are a top 4, top 5 team, even in a loaded Western Conference. But at the same point in time, do I believe that they're a championship contender right now? No, I do not. There are still a few flaws in it, but they're still going to be very good.
I disagree with that. I think the Lakers, even as presently constructed, could face off for the championship. It just depends on Luca being Luca and LeBron being LeBron. And as it pertains to LeBron, you think LeBron is going to play at an all NBA level and then just leave the Lakers? No. He's going to come back even as an unrestricted free agent next year after playing well. His son's still on the team. After having the season that he has, he's probably going to have a really good season again, 40 and 41. Luka's going to play great. DeAndre Ayton's going to be a really big difference maker, and he'll probably come back to the table because there won't be much cap space anywhere else either on contending teams, first apron and second apron teams. And he'll sign for the 50 plus million and stay on the Lakers more than likely again next year. So that's how I see it. I
Or
took
he'll
him
retire.
opting it, or he'll retire. But I don't see him donning another jersey, even a Cleveland jersey, for the 3rd time before he gets out of here. It's not happening. Not in my opinion. I want to get to something really quick because I promised you we talk a little bit.
Right.
I don't want to. I don't want to not be a man of my word, guys. I promised Chris for months that we would talk baseball, and it has come at the absolute worst time because our Dodgers have lost 6 straight for the first time since 2019. And Chris, I owe you an apology. We should have talked about this sooner because I hate the fact that we're talking baseball for the first time in a topic capacity, and it has to be about Milwaukee sweeping us right after the goddamn Astros swept us as well. 3 games
Mm.
at home and then 3 games on the road. I give you the floor to give us the absolute breakdown behind this team and why they are floundering. Even though Glasnow is back, Yamamoto is healthy, Kershaw's healthy, Otani's pitching, ramping up, Snell is throwing on the field before games, so is Roki. We might get all of our starters back, but the Dodgers still are reeling right now. When will the free fall stop?
Man, they can't hit. That's really what it comes down to. Over the weekend, they got their asses kicked, and they were outclassed by the Houston Astros. I don't like using that term too often, but it's true. Houston Astros dominated the Dodgers. They set the tone in that 18-1 game, and they proved over the next 2 games that that was no fluke. Houston Astros really just, and it's hard for me to say that. We all know the history with the Astros and everything like that. Not only was it hard to see them beat the Dodgers, it was hard to see Dodger fans watching how Jose Altuve, the face man, exactly, the freaking face man of the cheating scandal back in 27, hit 3 home runs at Dodger Stadium. It was even worse that the Dodgers' old pal from the Arizona Diamondbacks continued to rip on them at Dodger Stadium, and that was Christian Walker, who hit 2 more home runs at Dodger Stadium over the weekend. But even before that, you want to know what the momentum killer was? The Max Muncy injury. Max Muncy was in such a zone. He was covering up a lot of the flaws of this team offensively. Because that they were winning at such a high clip, they had taken care of business in the 10 games between the Padres and the Giants in June. They finished the month strong, feasting on the sub-500 teams like the Royals, like the Rockies, and like the Chicago White Sox. All of that was masked as well. But when you are playing against legitimate playoff competition, like the Houston Astros, who are right now probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in baseball, and a very good Milwaukee Brewers team who pitched their asses off in these 3 games, you got exposed. The problem right now is nobody is filling the void left behind by Max Muncy. That's the issue. And everybody has hit this funk at the same time. And in the case of the MV3, Otani, Betts, and Freeman, sorry about that. They have continued to struggle. The struggles that they were having in mid-June have continued to follow them. Freeman and Betts in particular. Otani had a pretty decent series. He hit a home run yesterday, his 31st of the season, looking like an MVP, but he's also been inconsistent at times. They have got to get this offense going because you are giving this pitching no margin for error. And the pitching was not bad in this series. They just had some hard luck. And when you only are scoring a run or 2, how are you giving Glasnow, Kershaw, or, Yamamoto was bad in that first inning, but there was no comeback. There was absolutely no comeback. And we were not saying that about the Dodgers, 2-3 weeks ago, when they would go down 2-3 runs and still rally in the later innings and come up with a win. So this is just a bad spot for them right now. It got worse with the bullpen, with Michael Kopech now going to be out probably for the next 2 months, recovering from a torn meniscus surgery, which they downplayed. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he's going to need surgery on that knee. You said all the scans came back good. So how do we go from all the scans came back good?
Well, no structural damage though. That's what they meant. They didn't lie, but they didn't tell the whole truth.
Yeah, half truths. That's what Dave Robertson and the staff are good at. So am I concerned? No, but I'm frustrated. And I am going to hold Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Otani accountable. Bro, Max Muncy's out right now. You guys got to step up, because if we're relying on Miguel Rojas and Esteury Ruiz and James Outman and even
Kike.
young Andy Pages, and Kike's on the IL too right now, to carry us through and carry the offense, that's just not going to cut it. Those 3 have got to set the tone. And Freddie just looks lost at the plate right now. After having an amazing April and May and even early June, he just has looked like a shell of himself. And Betts,
for 29 in his last 29 at bats.
Yeah, and Mookie has had a couple of pockets here, just nothing consistent lately. So, as much as we want to bash on Tanner Scott or Kirby Yates or Ben Kasparius or any of these other guys, you got to bash the MV3 right now. So they'll snap out of it. Hopefully the day off and going into Frisco this weekend will help them. Frisco's been struggling of late. But it has been rough to watch this team over the last week, man. 6 fucking game losing streak. That's unacceptable. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but I want to crystallize all of that and say they're still 5 games up in the division and 2 games up in the NL right now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're only behind the Detroit Tigers, who's having an all-time great season
They're
for them,
fantastic.
behind Screwball, who could not believe that game when he fanned 13 uh, on Sunday Night Baseball. Great game.
Minnesota Twins. I mean, Minnesota did
Great
not
game.
have a chance. You know what? The Twins would have actually had more success not going to the plate with their bats. They should have just stepped in there without the bats and saved themselves a lot of time and embarrassment.
No doubt. I'm with you on that. But here's the thing: you got to hit. I did not foresee Mookie, Freddie, and Otani being in slumps all at the same time while having injuries like that. Max Muncy. I was at that game when I could have sworn it looked so bad. I said, "Man, he might miss all of next year too." Now the fact that he's going to be back 6 to 8 weeks. I told Aldell, I said, "Man, 6 to 8 weeks if we're lucky," and we got lucky because that's about the amount of time with the bone bruise that Max Muncy is going to be out. You need that guy. You need his bat. You need him on third base. Miguel Rojas can only go do so much. And Mookie Betts, please get him back in the field so he can hit better.
That's what I
Like,
said. And
this is, at this
Teoscar
point,
looks
it's fucking ridiculous.
no, for sure. Because here there's a simple solution to this, and you could do it a couple of different ways. You could try to handle this internally. This is what I would do: put Mookie back in right, Teoscar to left, Andy Pages in center, Edman at shortstop, right? And as far as
Edmonds
second
playing
base,
like trash too.
yeah, well, no, but I'm just saying when it's all said and done, and second base, you could do one or two things, right? You could decide to do a what do you call it? A Rojas with a platoon situation, Rojas with Hyun Kim, or you can go out and trade for a bat, which is something I think that they might need to do. This
Arenado?
offense gets no, not Arenado. And by the way, I don't know what the Cardinals are going to do as far as being sellers or something, but they could definitely use a bat, not necessarily one that plays the outfield, but I think one that also plays the infield, particularly at second base. I just don't know exactly who, but I'll tell you who I would like. Luis Garcia Jr. from the Washington Nationals. I like that dude. He gave the Dodgers the business when Washington was in town to face the Dodgers
Not
a few
bad.
weeks back. That dude is rock solid right there. Left hand, we talked about the lack of a left-handed presence, especially now with Muncy out. If you could find a way, because Washington they just cleaned house. They fired their general manager, Mike Rizzo. They fired their manager, Davey Martinez. They got a draft coming up. They got a good young nucleus, which is why the firings were so surprising to everyone. Not to mention both those guys won a World Series with the Nats in 2019. I just think if you could try to find a way to land a guy like Luis Garcia, I think that's a very solid pickup for the Dodgers, almost Edman-esque in a way. What do you think?
Well, the MLB trade deadline is coming up on the 31st at the end of the month. So Friedman better make some calls because you need at least one or two moves with a bat, with an arm to be able to strengthen this team because of all the
Right-handed
injuries
reliever.
that you have. A right-handed reliever, preferably a right-handed hitter, an extra bat that's going to be able to supplement what you've lost in terms of injuries, as well as just consistency overall as well. So
Yeah, I
I
agree.
really just I think that you got to make a couple moves, but they don't have to be big moves. But this is why the Dodgers went big game hunting and signing everybody that they did. I don't think Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott are going to be as bad as they were today at the same time in multiple games moving forward. So again, I put a ball in it by saying they're still number one in the division, in the league, and second in all of baseball, even with losing 6 straight. So
Yeah.
got to excel just a little bit.
And here's the thing, guys. They won 8 out of 9 going into that series against Houston. And then all of a sudden it's like the engine's just turned off. So, sometimes these things have a way of spiraling, but they also have a way of spiraling the other way. Look at the Yankees, man. Yankees were awful. And now they're in a battle for first place. And their consistency has been a problem. Look at the New York Mets, also in a free fall. The Cubs have now cooled off a little bit. So this happens. And I think this is how everyone needs a break right now at the All-Star break, because with the All-Star break literally around the corner, I think next Monday is the home run derby. Next Tuesday is the game. And then you have 2 days off. And then most of the teams are going to pick it up Thursday, Friday of next week. But still, no excuses. to handle your business. And I think if you could end this first half winning 2 out of 3 up in Frisco, reestablishing some control in the division, you have something to feel good about going into Atlanta and the All-Star break. And then hopefully coming back, you have Blake Trinan, Blake Snell. You would reincorporate them. You mentioned Sasaki. We'll see about him. Hopefully Rusar Gratterall will make his way into the bullpen at some point. But Chaez, as far as external, go get a bat, go get a right-handed arm in that bullpen, and maybe even a starter. But I don't know what that market's going to look like.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. We'll be talking a whole lot more baseball as we keep going for the rest of the summer and into the fall in October. Chris, great show. Nothing but great stuff from us talking NBA, all these moves. You guys know what the deal is, where to follow us. We're back consistently every week on Wednesday evenings, 8:15 p.m. You guys know where to follow us on Instagram at Chaez Pearson, on Twitter as well. Chris, you know where they can follow you. Let them know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's right there. At Chris_Camelo on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, CCamelo1. Follow us at The Outlet Forum on X, YouTube, and IG. By the way, RIP to the great Michael Madsen. Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, Donnie Brasco, The Getaway. Huge fan of Michael Madsen. If you didn't know who he was every tough guy. He was every tough guy and every bad guy in the 90s and early 2000s. And it was a shame he passed away. He was a damn good actor. Very underrated. I just want to throw that in there, Chaez.
Losing all our stars, man. Well, we appreciate you guys tapping in with us. We'll see you guys again for a great show next week, talking all things Summer League, a little bit more baseball, and hopefully, just hopefully, the Lakers make a couple more moves. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.